Well, hello everyone, and Merry Christmas. This is Christmas Day 2017. So we thought we would take the drone up and shoot a little video of sunrise here on Christmas Day. It's really a cool, crisp morning out, not much wind, and the sun is just about to come up. So you can see as we drive along here, headed back to the west side to feed the calves, the sun is just now hitting the tops of the trees. And it really is just a beautiful scene there. Probably is about as pretty and picturesque as it gets this time of year, is just around sunrise. So at this point we have 127 head of calves back on the backside there that we're feeding pellets to each morning, and this little tractor has a pellet feeder tied on behind there. And so we're feeding about 6 pounds of pellets per day, and then also feeding a bale of hay back there. So Michelle is behind me there with the tractor and the bale of hay. So I'm going to go up here and spread pellets into these bunks for the calves. By the time Michelle gets there, they'll pretty well have it cleaned up. We're kind of reluctant to start on the hay there at first, but they've really caught on. The grass is pretty well cleaned up over there. What's left isn't very good. So they're really into the hay right now and cleaning it up pretty good each day. So they're doing well. Starting to put a little bit of flesh on, maybe some of them a little bit too much, but they're certainly doing well. You can see them just off the left of the screen there. They're filing down to meet me at the corner of the pasture there. And I got to drive through this big draw here, and then I'll get on down to the gate and get in there and get them fed. You can see the frost on the ground. It's below a little bit below freezing there this morning, but not bad. It's a pretty comfortable day out, and it does warm up pretty decently later on this day. But isn't that pretty? Sun just hitting the tops of the trees there, and in contrast to the frosty ground, it just is kind of pretty. Yeah, that's beautiful right there. That's just gorgeous the way the sun's hitting the trees there. So that's all I shot of this of this particular morning, and then I kind of finished this video up by coming back to the house where we're going to do some work taking out some trees. That's where we're right behind the house right now, right behind both shop buildings. And I'm just setting up the drone, and I'm going to go get the excavator, and we're going to pull out some big tree limbs that have fallen off a big dead tree back here. And although I didn't tape it, I actually took 2 huge trees out with the excavator on this same afternoon, cut them up, piled them up, and so right now I'm just going to try to clean up what's on the ground, and then I'm going to dig those trees out, knock them over, and cut them up. So I already got the excavator down to the shop there, and I'm just kind of getting the drone positioned where I want it, so you kind of see what's going on here. This is later in the day. You can see the sun's fully up, and it has warmed up quite a bit there, and it's really a pretty day. Nice clear skies, and not warm, but certainly not cold either. So it's just a very enjoyable temperature out there. So I'm going to go get the drone. As I said, we're going to clean up some stuff around the bottom of those trees so I have space to work when I take them down. And I'll just kind of videotape a little bit of that. But yeah, so these big old trees died off there in 2011, and they're now dried out enough to where they'll burn pretty good. So I'm going to have 3 piles when I'm done here. The pile that you can see on the ground right out in the open there, I'm going to add to that right now. But then when I take these 2 trees out, I just make a pile out of each tree and put some brush in there with it. So get it cleaned up pretty decently here during the course of that day. And then We burned the one pile later, I guess on New Year's Eve, maybe we burned the pile you're looking at right there, and it really burned up almost completely. And so the other 2 piles are still there that I've got to get burned up, but the wind hasn't really been favorable. We need a nice south wind, consistent for about a week, and keep the smoke away from the house and the buildings. But you can see I'm coming there with the excavator, going to get myself in position and go underneath those trees and pick out some of the stuff that's laying on the ground there. So when we knock the trees over, we've got some room to work. And there it is. There we go. The tree that is between the excavator and the camera right now, that tree is alive, so that tree is fine. But the tree right to the right of the excavator is the one that I take out. That's one of the 2 that I take out. And it's completely dead, and it's really no threat to anything except for it's got a huge widowmaker hanging in the top of it that has my attention and my concern. So about the only way I can get that widowmaker out of there is just to take the tree down. And since the tree's dead anyway, there's really no reason not to get it out and get it cleaned up. So this added to the cleared space around the buildings too, which is a good idea, I think, with fire hazards being what they are. The cleared space gives us a little bit of a fire cushion. And so by the time I'm all done with this project, there's quite a bit more cleared space there to the north of that new shop building. And so here I've got my first little dinky load that I cleared out, and now we'll go back and get some other stuff. This excavator is kind of amazing what it'll lift and what it'll do. These trees that I took out with it are just, I mean, they're huge. So at the base of the tree is probably a good 30 inches across. I know my 24-inch chainsaw won't reach all the way through it, so it's they're big trees, and they're old trees, and of course they're dead, but they still weigh a lot, and they still have a tremendous root ball system on them. So it takes a lot of digging to get them out, but if you stay with it, you can pretty much take any tree out with this excavator. So it probably took me 2 hours to take out those 2 trees, I'm guessing. Another hour or so to cut them up, and then not very long to stack them up. So, that you can do a lot of work with this little machine, and it's quite reliable and dependable. You just really have to watch what you're doing all the time because it just wants to kill you. Everything you're doing with it has some risk. Something falling on you, or tipping this thing over, or sticking a tree limb through the glass in the cab or something like that. All those things are stuff to think about. But if you keep your wits about you, it certainly is an awesome machine. Just does a fantastic job. So I was talking with Mickey and Jim about making this video, and Jim had said to me during the course of that conversation that he had heard of circumstances where one person would shoot the video and then someone who knows nothing about what's going on in the scene would add the narration. So to the extent they might have been interested in doing it, I sent Mickey and Jim a copy of this video that has no narration. And so if they choose to, they can add their narration to this video, and I'll put it up on the YouTube channel, and we'll all enjoy it. But if they want to do it, they've got the blank video to add the narration to. So this area underneath this tree is got a whole bunch of pretty decent sized stuff. Here comes one of them back out of there. And there's already been a bit of a pile of stuff there, so by the time I get everything cleaned out underneath that tree, we've got a pretty good sized pile here, and there's another big old tree stump that I add to it later on, and so really made some progress in getting that particular area cleaned up. But of course I added 2 more piles, burned one, so I'm a net 1 up, and I've got little piles like this just literally all over the place. So I've got a substantial amount of work to do someday just to go around and burn these piles up and clean them up and and so forth. But it all takes time, and you have to be there to watch the fire so that it doesn't get out of hand. Conditions here are just kind of iffy for fires. So if I wouldn't have been home to tend to this, I would not have lit it. Oh, there's a you may notice if you're watching carefully, there is a turkey buzzard that doesn't particularly like that drone, and so he's been kind of flying around, not as a threat to it necessarily, but maybe curious about what it is. And I've seen him dip in and out of the scene. There he is, and you see his shadow. Oh, there he is, right there. Yeah, he's just not crazy about that drone being there. And I guess he's either curious or unhappy about it, depending on his point of view. But yeah, I hope Mickey and Jim take the opportunity to narrate this thing. It would be kind of quite entertaining, I think, to see a point of view added that has no comprehension whatsoever actually what was going on. And that would be Jim, no comprehension at all. So yeah, just a few more trips back under the tree there, and I'll have it pretty well cleaned up. I always think about whether I should try to saw the trees and knock them down and then dig out the stump, or whether I should first dig the whole tree out and then saw it up. Then I always feel comfortable trying to just dig out the whole tree. I worry about some part of the tree falling on me if I'm underneath there with a saw. At least being in the excavator, I maintain some distance from the tree, and I really don't try to shake it very much or anything. And when I get ready to push it over, I've got the best angle picked out, so there's typically nothing directly above me that's a threat. Even so, it's a nervous part of the exercise when you get ready to push that tree over, to make sure that it goes where you want it to go and that nothing drops off of it and onto you. But I've done it enough times now that I kind of have a process now that I'm pretty comfortable with. If the tree's got stuff hanging off every side, I don't try to take it down. There's just too much risk that it could fall down on you. But if there's a clean side where I can hide out while I dig around the roots, then I'll do that, because it's relatively safe, and I don't worry so much about something unexpected happening. And so the longer these trees have stood, the more likely they are to be kind of clean at the top. And that's pretty much true of these two big trees I take out here. There's not a big bushy tree top. It's pretty much just a straight linear column there with a little bit of stuff at the top. But anyway, this is kind of how I spent my Christmas afternoon, and was pretty happy I did. We got quite a bit of stuff cleaned up, and now we're going to have more room around the buildings, which creates, like I said, more of a fire zone. And of course, the more distance you have between the buildings and the brushy stuff, the fewer copperheads you're going to have around the buildings, which is also a good thing in the summertime. This year we had a few copperheads right around the house. I guess last year, I'm trying to remember, we only had maybe one or two. This year we had a few more than that. So getting this stuff cleaned out of here and pushing the trees back away from the buildings, it just helps. It just helps mitigate particularly the interactions with copperheads. The other kinds of snakes still kind of slid through the grass and everything, but then you're not so concerned about it. They're not poisonous. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. This one log here, I had to kind of jockey that through a space that was not quite big enough, but we got through there without hitting the building or doing any other harm, and getting it on over there to the pile. So anyway, Merry Christmas, everyone. Hope your Christmas 2017 was a great one. I certainly enjoyed mine, and hope you did as well.